You're listening to the Balanced Educator Podcast, episode number 131.
Welcome to the Balanced Educator. We're your hosts, Kaylee
and Josiane from EduCalm. Our intention is to equip and empower you to feel more calm, balanced, and joyful in all aspects of your life. Hello, and welcome to the Balanced Educator Podcast. As always, we're so happy to have you here with us today. Now, today I am doing a solo episode, and I am going to walk you through one of my favorite writing projects that I have done in my classroom quite a few times now. And that project is all about writing a letter of gratitude for someone that the students really care about and love. But before we dive in, I would love to share with you our sponsor, the Simply Organized Teacher, and her course, Organize Your Classroom Papers course. This course is to help you sift through, clean out, and organize all of your papers so that you can stop spending time trying to remember where you put that copy or having to get your class involved in looking for those materials you just misplaced. It's an awesome course. I recently took it. I highly recommend it, and you can get access to the course by heading to educalm.com/TBE 131, as in the Balanced Educator 131. Again, that's educalm.com, EDUCALME/TBE 131, and click on the link to the Simply Organized Teachers course. All right, let's dive into the show. So first off, this project is a project that you can do at any age. If you teach any language, this is such a good project. And I've personally done this project in grades 4 to 6 and also a mini version in grades 1 and 2. In the past, I taught high school French, and this is a project that I could have 100% done with this age group, and it would have been so rich, I think. So if you're a high school teacher and you take this and run with it, please let me know how it goes. I would love to hear all about it. I don't know if you have ever done a project in your classroom where you're writing a letter to someone, but of course you're going to have, the usual checklist of the outcomes that you want the students to learn, including the elements of writing a letter. But from our perspective, this project is not just a language arts project. It is also a health project, right? Like expressing gratitude and kindness to people who are special to us. That's all part of health class. So it's kind of this transdisciplinary activity that you can do with your students to show and develop kindness to the people that they love. And also making them realize that when they show kindness and develop gratitude, that they themselves will feel better. And when you feel better, you want to do more of what makes you feel better, right? So my plan today is simply to go through the steps of how I do this. These are also steps that are outlined in the EduCalm classroom program. We have a whole unit on gratitude, and the letter of gratitude is part of the unit. It's kind of an extra bonus activity in the unit. And the idea is to do this activity after you've kind of gone through the whole unit. That's 4 to 5 weeks long. So if you are unfamiliar with the EduCalm classroom program, what it is we teach your students how to manage their emotions and behaviors so that you can both thrive in a calm and focused learning atmosphere. And all of our resources, all of the social emotional resources there are created for you. There are audio guided mindfulness practices to last the entire school year. So if you want to check that out, you can go to educalm.com/free. That's educalme.com/free. And you can try out the program for free. So that's like 4 to 5 weeks of social emotional learning resources that are ready to go. Just press play. So if you are an Educalm Classroom subscriber, you have access to the gratitude unit. Now, I am a really big believer in front loading, doing tons and tons of front loading before doing a writing piece so that we see more success with our students. So if you're unfamiliar with what front loading is basically just equipping the students with as much information as possible so that they can write at a deeper level, essentially. And the idea is that when you spend more time on front loading, then you don't have to spend as much time in the writing, because by the time the students go to write, they're ready, they're well equipped to get going. And it's just more of an efficient process for everyone involved in the writing process. So my intention right now is to show you kind of the steps that I take from the front loading to the actual writing of the letter of gratitude. So just know that all of these steps that I'm going to talk to you about are optional. And some years I dove into this project in a bigger way, and some years this was really short, kind of little project. So you can do this in any way you want. And another thing that I want to mention is that this is a project that you can easily do whether you have an Educalm Classroom subscription or not. I just wanted to point out that if you do have an Educalm Classroom subscription, that if you go to the gratitude unit, basically you'll see the written version of all of this stuff. Okay, so basically the whole idea of the letter of gratitude is to write to someone that is special to us. So to kick off this project, I like to do, like I said, the audio guide and mindfulness practices, but it can also just be for, say, 2 weeks, you just get your students to close their eyes and to just think of someone that they love. Getting them to think of why that person is special to them, what they do for them, what does this person do for them or with them that they're grateful for? So just getting them to think about that. And it could just be thinking about it, or it can also be to write it down. So every day they choose someone, and it can be the same person a few times, and they just write down reasons why they're grateful for them or why they love them. And another little activity that I like to do alongside this is to get them to just notice how they feel when they think about that person. To notice maybe their heart, to notice their stomach, like just notice the feelings that are going on along with the thinking about the person that they're grateful for and why they're grateful for them. This is an activity I like to do at least a week before diving into the letter itself. I would say even longer than that. And this is also something that can be easily incorporated, like in discussions afterwards or as part of morning meeting, and kids can tell each other why they're grateful for each other. Kind of just taking the time every day for like 5 to 10 minutes to just explore the idea of gratitude. And it doesn't always have to be someone they're grateful for. That you could also talk about gratitude, like what they're grateful for, the things, kind of like you do at Thanksgiving. So just slowly building that gratitude knowledge over the next week or two. Then after we've kind of had those discussions, maybe we've done some quick, like kind of mindful moments around thinking about who we're grateful for, or filling out a gratitude journal for a couple weeks. Then it's time to have a bigger discussion with the students and to brainstorm ways that we can tell someone that we're grateful for, and brainstorm reasons to be grateful for someone. So kind of I just like to do it, keep it simple, do a big web on the board, and depending on the age group, maybe getting the students to write this out for themselves first before the discussion, or just doing it as a class and getting them to write down the answers or to copy the web so that they have kind of that vocabulary and some things that they might need for when they go and write their letter. Again, lots and lots of front loading. So, like I said, this can be done as a group or get students to reflect individually. And then, so once we've had these discussions, we've been doing the journaling for a while, then I get them to reflect on who they are really, really grateful for, like who in their life is so important and so special to them, and to write that down or to say it out loud in a discussion in the classroom. And really, this is to get them to really start to think about who their audience is going to be. Who is the letter going to be written for? And once they've kind of started deciding who that person is going to be, I like to give them a worksheet to get them reflecting and thinking about the letter that they will be writing. There is a worksheet in the EduCalm Classroom Gratitude Unit. But the types of questions that we can ask are simply things like, who are you grateful for? Why are you grateful for this person? What makes this person special in your life? And how does this person make you feel? So those are the questions that we want to ask in preparation for writing the letter of gratitude. Now, as the kids are really starting to think about their own letter, one thing that I really like to do, and I believe I talked about this in episode 124, an interdisciplinary growth mindset lesson and project, that's at educalm.com/TBE124, is to do the gradual release. So the I do, we do, you do, which essentially just means that I model what a letter of gratitude could look like. And then the we do is we would write a letter of gratitude together to model what, a good letter of gratitude could look like. So when I don't always do both, sometimes I just choose one depending on time constraints, like either an I do or we do. This year I haven't done the project yet, but I'm going to choose to do a we do because we're in a weird pandemic teaching situation now where we have multiple teachers assigned to the cohort. And so I was thinking it would be a really nice exercise to write a letter of gratitude to the other teachers in the cohort. So that's kind of the plan for this year. But if I do an I do, then I'll write a letter to my mom or dad or a sibling and model what a letter of gratitude should look like. Before I even model the letter itself, I model a brainstorm. So I go through the thinking of choosing who I'm going to write my letter of gratitude to and kind of brainstorming and listing ways or reasons why I'm grateful for this person, how they make me feel, kind of all the things that were in that worksheet that I just previously talked about. So I go through that process out loud so that they can see and hear my thinking. And then I dive into writing the letter. And while I'm writing the letter, I ask the students, what did you notice me do there? And so they'll raise their hands and they'll say, oh, you edited so that you would have a variety of words, or you added a transition word, or you added punctuation at the end of each sentence. And that's how I create my checklist, is as they say these things, I add it to the checklist so that when they get ready to write, they have a checklist that is ready for them. And if I want to target specific outcomes, then I guide the discussion during the writing to get to that specific thing that I am trying to teach them so that I can add it to the checklist. In EduCalm Classroom, there is also an optional checklist that's pre-created for you if that's what you would rather use. So at this point, usually students have had enough front loading and they are ready to write their first draft. So they write, usually it doesn't take long because by this point, they've already kind of formulated a pretty good idea of what they want their letter to look like, which is why front loading is so amazing. Much less writer's block. And so students can start writing and then they can then edit and revise it with the checklist that we created together. And sometimes one thing that I like to do is go through the checklist with them and one by one getting them to go through and correct. And sometimes I'll get them to highlight certain things and that just so that we make sure that they're actually using the checklist to its full potential. Then once corrections are made, if I can, I always like to conference with them one-on-one to go over it and correct whatever errors are left with them, because I find that when I take the time for the one-on-one, they learn so much more, but it's not always possible. And as a matter of fact, I don't believe this year it will be possible for me to do that with this particular project, just because of time constraints. Again, the way that our classrooms and our cohort is organized this year, it gives me a lot less time options for things like that. But we do the best we can. And so however you normally do corrections for writing pieces, like do that, whatever works for you, right? And so once the corrections are made, then I ask the students to write their final copy by hand, because I just find that it's so much more special with the kind of personal letter. And I sometimes will get them to like create an art piece, and then it like we can turn it into a card where the art is in the front of the card or whatever. Like you can for sure include lots of art in this. I've done it a few times that way, just to make it more personal and fun. And then they put the letter of gratitude in an envelope if you have some lying around. And then they give the letters to the person. And it's kind of crazy because there are some years where the kids gave their letter of gratitude to their parent on portfolio night. And then I got to see the reactions, and some parents were crying because it was just such a special thing to receive. Yes, lots of receivers of the letter of gratitude crying and getting all emotional. I've seen it a few times. And when the students like gave it to someone that wasn't their parent and they didn't receive it on portfolio night, just they came back to school and had these amazing reactions. Could also be an opportunity to like send a letter via snail mail if that's an option for you, because of course kids these days aren't super used to that whole concept. So that could be fun too. There's lots of ways you can do this. But it's just such a special moment. It's very much a feel-good project, and it teaches kids the power of gratitude, and it makes them realize how amazing the people in their lives are. So beautiful project. I've had success with this many times. When I taught this in grade 1, they just wrote one sentence and then they represented it on the top of the paper, and then gave it to their person. So this project can be as big as you want or as small as you want. And I today shared some options about how to do it, but I mean, take this, make it your own, change it, add to it, shorten it, whatever, like make this suit your style as a teacher and have fun with this project. I know that every year at the end of the year, when I ask my students what some of their favorite projects and activities were, often this one comes up just because the reaction of the receivers of the letter is just so huge. Your exit ticket for today is maybe you don't dive into the whole project, maybe you don't even write a letter at all, but practice gratitude with your students in your classroom, whatever that looks like for you. Now, you can find the show notes for this episode at educalm.com/TBE131. So that's educalm, educalme.com/TBE, as in the Balanced Educator 131. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to share it with a friend or a colleague that would get value from it too. Thank you so much for sharing this time with us. Have an awesome week.